Hey guys, welcome back into our final installment of this Togetherness series here with Mike and Becky. And I think this is going to be a really cool place for us kind of to end. Pastor Jim unpacked 1 Corinthians 13, which a lot of people will think of in a marriage context, in a loving, it's read at a lot of weddings, faith, hope, and love, all these endure. But what I think is interesting about this passage, when you look at it in context of the book of the letter of 1 Corinthians, it's really placed in this discussion about the church. And about relationships within the church as a whole. When we think about the church relationships or marriage relationships or kids relationships, there's gonna be conflict. And thinking through that lens of 1 Corinthians 13, how do we work through conflict and be patient and be kind and all those things that we read about there. So conflict is a part of relationships. It's a part of love, working through it. So love to hear what you guys have to say about working through conflict in the midst of relationships and how we still love in the midst of conflict and all of that.
Right. First of all, nobody likes conflict, and nobody associates conflict with love.
Right.
In fact, a lot of people will look at a sign of love as a lack of conflict. If we have no conflict, then we're doing things right. But the reality is that's impossible to be conflict-free, because if we're conflict-free, someone's not being totally honest.
There's a lot of bad things that we think of when we hear the word conflict. But conflict in and of itself is a difference. And we're two different people.
Right.
We're different people than our children. And so we're going to have different ideas, different ways of looking at things.
Yeah.
And so the word conflict and the word fight are often looked at together.
Right.
And so we don't have to fight. Hopefully we learn how to not fight.
Yeah, the one doesn't necessarily have to lead to the other.
Right, but a conflict in and of itself is a difference, and there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a lot of differences because we're human and we're people,
Right. And even in that humanness, we make mistakes, we fail.
We let each other down sometimes.
We can be insensitive. We can be selfish. All those things.
Right.
And the ability to do conflict is part of God's redemptive work. Because if we can't enter into that, what are we left with? Right? It's hard to grow, because once again, we can only be as close as our similarities. Right? The idea of being able to take each other's perspective, we talked about the first week.
Right.
If we can't get into our differences and care for our differences in those discussions, we're just left in the shallow end of the pool. That's as far as we can go. Love is patient, love is kind. And we could have a conversation where there's patience and kindness even when something's amiss.
Right.
I mean, how redeeming is that?
Well, that long suffering is another word that's used in some other translations, and I think that speaks exactly to that. It's like, okay, there's been a hurt, a divide, so there's that. You kind of suffer through it together and offer grace that isn't necessarily deserved in that instance, and it's like it bridges that gap.
Right. Absolutely. And if you think of it in like a practical way, how does love and conflict show up? Shows up in how we talk to each other, right? That's how it will get expressed. Because if the only thing that matters in our conflict is the topic, what the conflict is about, guess what? We can be the wild, wild west, because the only thing that matters is how I feel about the topic.
What do you mean by that?
We can kind of lose track of our relationship and caring for each other and being kind and gentle and long suffering. We can, if we respond in the moment of the conflict and focus only on what's wrong, it's kind of setting our relationship aside, and we're gonna go after this. Like we said in the first week, we've been married for 34 years, and when we were engaged, somebody told me this. I wish I knew who it was, because I would go back and thank them. But they said, never forget that your relationship is more important than fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was just saying a minute ago. If we always talk to each other in that way, our relationship is more important, then we are protecting our relationship, whether it's between us, it's between our children, it's between someone we go to church with, whoever it is. Relationships are more important than whatever it is we're upset about. One practical step is the timing of our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if we're going to talk to each other kind and gentle and with patience, and really in the 20 years of marriage counseling we've done, we've seen a lot of conflict happen between people.
Yeah.
And some people enter conflict of there's going to be a winner and a loser, and I'm going to be the winner.
Right.
And some people enter conflict because they're afraid of conflict and what it could do to a relationship. They just back out and they don't say anything.
Right. Have you ever felt the whoosh, that rise of emotion?
Yeah.
You're familiar with it.
Yeah.
You've read books
we
about
all
it.
are familiar.
You've seen stuff
I've
on
seen
TV.
it on TV. Yeah.
Right? It's what you do with the whoosh,
Hmm.
right? Because
Some people feel the whoosh and they come out fighting.
for example, you're going somewhere as a family, and there will be someone in your family who values time. Being on time is important to them, and there will be other people in your family that don't.
Yeah.
Right?
That doesn't matter.
So what happens is you get in the car and then you look at your watch and you go, oh, the last car door shuts and you have 17 minutes to get somewhere that takes you 29 minutes. And you feel the whoosh.
The whoosh.
And then if you obey the whoosh, what comes out of your mouth?
It's not good.
It's not
It's
good.
not good.
It will usually center
Nothing
around their character. You're disrespectful because people who value time see time as respect.
As respect, right.
So they will turn to everyone in the car and tell them that they're disrespectful. They don't care. And you don't care about what's important to me.
Or you're irresponsible.
Yeah.
So when we respond in the whoosh, as we will call it, the things that come out of our mouth are not gentle, kind, patient.
Right.
They aren't looking out for our relationship.
Right.
It is, you did something wrong and you are going to hear about what you did wrong and the wrath is going to come.
Right. And so what's the response? What do you hope for whenever I'm doing that?
Well,
what do I hope
what
for?
happens usually? Like when I'm responding of you're so irresponsible.
Defense, because you're making essentially a character assumption. You know that they're going to feel like I have to defend myself in this because I'm not disrespectful.
Right.
Maybe they were coming at it. Their mind was in another place.
And here's what's so important about that, Jesse, because you're spot on, is that as soon as I get defensive, I can no longer focus on you. I can no longer take your perspective. I am now trying to figure out how to protect myself from your perspective of me.
Right.
So I try to defend myself or I take you down with me. And then it dissipates. And the best we'll get is, I'm sorry for what I said about your mother. I'm sorry for what I said to you, and we'll apologize for the ugliness, but we still never talk about being late.
Right.
Or what to do about it.
Or what to do about it.
Right.
So
or the best case scenario is I do that and you apologize and you say, I'll try harder. I'm so sorry. But what you really mean is you don't know what to do with me right now, and you just don't want me to be mad. So there's no insight. There's no perspective taking.
Right.
So guess what happens? We never talk about it again until when?
Till it happens again.
the next time we get in the car and uh-oh.
And then you know what I say to you then? Here's the icing on the cake. I turn to you and I say, how many times are we going to have to talk about this?
Yeah, no, that I feel that one a little too acutely.
Right? Because and then the answer to that is, I have no idea how many times we're going to have to talk about it.
And you as a parent don't have any idea either.
Right. Because
because you haven't gotten any further down the relational road.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't understand.
And the problem with responding in that whoosh is nothing good comes out of it. it's not looking out for our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not resolving the problem. It's
So-
just eventually we say we're sorry maybe for how we talk to each other.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
So what do we do?
Right.
What do we do?
What we do, love says, whoosh, not now.
Because of how I'm feeling, I can't have this conversation right now.
Right. So I say, I have the right to go off on you. I have the right to express
I mean,
my
we
displeasure.
may feel that way.
Right.
Like, I have
But
every
Yeah.
right to
Yeah.
tell you this right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
But love says not now. And so I step away.
Not now, not like this.
Not like
Yeah,
this. Oh,
I
that's
think
good.
that's the key. Not like
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Right, not like this. We could talk about this later when we can talk about being late so that I won't talk about you. Because if we talk we could talk about anything if it's out here.
And that's the problem. So being late's the problem. Let's talk about it. But if you're the
we
problem,
can't
Right.
talk about
we
anything.
can't fix you.
We can't talk about anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So love says wait, because I can ask questions then. I cannot accuse you.
I
I
can
can
try
listen.
to understand your perspective.
It goes back exactly. It goes back to that perspective
Right,
piece.
absolutely. So one is we don't obey the whoosh. Now, the other way that love gets expressed, and this one seems a little counterintuitive, but it's the decision to talk when something goes wrong, right? Because
Not in the wish, but
right,
that something went wrong and I love you so much. I know we need to talk
Oh,
about
I want to go back to something else. You said that. How do we help our kids in this, right? Because we struggle with this as adults,
Yeah.
right? So how do
Absolutely.
we help our kids? Because when our kids go in the whoosh,
it. Whether that is anger toward us or anger toward a sibling and it's responding in that whoosh, that's where we get to step in
Yeah.
and
No,
help
this
them.
is huge because I feel like I have a kid who whooshes often.
right. So what if you said something like this, right? I understand you're frustrated. I understand you're upset. And what's going on right here is really important to me. But I love you too much to talk about it like this. So let's calm down and let's come back and try again. And what I'm doing is, one, I'm modeling self-control because I have to be able to go, I don't know who you think you are.
Right.
Right? But I come and I go, I know this is important. And I do want to hear you, but I can't hear you like this. I love you too much for us to talk like this. Because the thing is, if you have one of your kids is raised and you're raised, you will hate it, but it happens.
You do it. You feel terrible after.
Right. But the
Yeah.
thing is, I don't want it to happen, but it's happening. So I'm saying it's okay that it's happening
Because I'm letting it happen.
because it's
Right,
happening.
right.
But if I go, I love you too much to talk, let's come back. Let's take 5 minutes. Let's take 10 minutes and come back and try it again because I want to know.
And even that with each other. I
Yeah.
love you, with your spouse. I love you too much to talk like this.
True
Can
that,
we
yeah.
take a minute? And I remember one time I was like, and I told Mike, I think I need to pray. And he goes, oh, I wish you would.
Oh.
But because there's times when we can get stuck with each other and what I say doesn't resonate. But I know when you talk to Jesus, it always resonates.
And in that minute
Right.
when we walk away to pray or to think and to talk to Jesus, it's not oh, you are in so much trouble, I'm having to leave the room. It's I love you so much. This is
I'm gonna
not
talk to Jesus
this
about
is
this.
not how I want to respond.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that the care and the value of
Right.
the other person and of the relationship that you have, that you feel that compulsion to want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's something of value.
Right.
And you care for things that are valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're going to the other part and I drew it back.
I think I got off topic.
No.
too.
But the idea of
That we have to care enough to have the conversation.
Mhm.
If
Right.
we are a person who keeps it all inside,
Or
and
avoidant of the conflict.
yeah, like it's not good for our relationship to have any kind of disharmony, and so I'm not going to say anything.
it's no big deal. It's the things we talk ourselves out of.
A good wife shouldn't even let that bother her, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or I can just get over it. I know it was, we talk ourselves out of it.
For the sake of harmony.
But if it's something that really bothers us and he doesn't know that it's bothering me, then that's not fair to him.
Well, you're robbing him of the opportunity to care for you.
Exactly.
But where this ends up is really never good.
Yeah.
Because here's what we want. And it's almost like magical thinking. Something bothers me and I want it to go away. I want it to be thrown in a stream and it gets carried off and it goes away and I never think about it again. And I go, okay, so we never have to talk about anything uncomfortable.
Right.
But intimate relationships like family, like marriage, it's not a stream. It's a lazy river.
It comes back
Yeah.
around.
It comes back
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And so I don't talk to Becky about it, but I start talking to myself about Becky. And I go, there it is again. There it is again. There's something like it again.
Why does she load the refrigerator that way? I don't understand.
Well, and it's in the why. Why does she do it that way? Because she knows it bothers me and she doesn't care about me. And we start having these thoughts.
You're filling in the negative space with,
Yes.
with your own worst case scenario,
Right.
without having even talked about it.
Because our
Right.
brain always moves towards closure.
Yeah.
We have to make sense of it. So guess when we finally talk? It's whenever I'm full and I explode. Right? So now we're back to the car conversation, but it took me 3.5 weeks to get there.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So now I turn to Becky and I overload her with 10 things.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of them can be talked through because there's 10 things.
Right.
And then after it happens, how do I feel? I feel a little relieved because I got it off my chest, but I also then feel guilty because look what happens when we talk.
And then it reinforces, I should just not let things bother me. And then it starts all over again. So it's kind of a build and blow, lazy river cycle.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
the two ways to show love to your spouse and your family in conflict is, first, don't respond in the whoosh of it. And secondly, if something's really bothering you, come to your spouse or your child and have that conversation and teach your kids that.
And if that thought right there makes you anxious to bring things up, ask your spouse if they want to know. It's important to be able to go, when things come up for me, are you going to be frustrated with me? Are you going to be disappointed with me? Are you going to feel picked on by me? And I can almost guarantee you your spouse would go, I would rather have 7 small conversations than
In
one
kind,
giant
gentle
Right.
ways.
one giant conversation that cannot be resolved.
Right. Good stuff. Everyone, don't give in to the whoosh. That's the lesson. Don't give in to the whoosh. Guys, this has been a treat talking with you over these couple of conversations, unpacking this stuff. Thanks so
been
much
fun.
for being a part of it.
Thanks for
Hope you
having
guys
us.
have gotten some practical ideas, some practical tips of how to work through conflict in your relationships. Thanks for being a part of it, Mike and Becky, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.